Hi, in this video I'm going to follow a step-by-step narrative on how to do your transmission oil partial flush. I say partial flush because it is not a complete flush, although this is a viable and required service. I've done this more than 4 times on this same vehicle. Mileage is approaching 200,000 kilometers. Right, I do believe you can do this at home, and I do believe you can do this if you are one person, and you will see that I've specifically attempted to do this video with just regular tools, proving once again that regular people can do these type of repairs. Okay, one of the biggest challenges is actually to get the car fully jacked up and level. Remember, the car is almost 2 tons, so you've got to use high strength jacks and trestles. Never get under a car that hasn't been it doesn't have trestles, and remember that the car has to be level for this repair. Alright, so it's just 4 size 8 screws that hold this protective cover, and it's a size 8. Just have a look at the trestles. The trestles must be under the car in a place where the entire car's weight can rest, so that's very important.
Okay, the filler is on the side here. Now the filler nut sometimes gets jammed, so I've already loosened it. This is what the filler nut looks like. My advice to you is first make sure that you can open the filler nut. Now it's a size 8 hex or Allen key, whatever you want to call it, and in order to loosen it you might need to use a vice grip. Now what I did is I did that, and I opened it with some force, so that, and then you will open this one with a size this is a size 10, and I've already drained the oil, so you would see the oil coming up, but I've already drained the oil. And then after that you can then remove the filler nut, because if you remove the filler nut before, then oil will seep out here. So the order is first loosen the filler nut. Once you know the filler nut can be loosened, then and only then do you let the oil drain.
Right, now you remove the filter housing. This happens to be a replacement filter housing because I've done this repair before. You use a T40, Torx 40. My recommendation is not to use an impact wrench, screwdriver, for the reason that I've had in the past. Sometimes the impact screwdriver actually breaks the heads off certain nuts. So what I do is I first go around and manually loosen it. Thereafter, you can use your automatic tools. There's nothing worse than having a head snap off and the body or the threading still stuck in your chassis. So as I said, that's what you're seeing me do now, and then shortly afterwards you'll see that I come with the automatic screwdriver just to speed up the process. Okay, when you release the cover, just be careful, there's still oil in it. Even though you had let the oil drain into the bucket, there's still oil there. Don't let it fall all over the place, so guide it down carefully so that you don't make a mess. Right, you can see how disgusting this oil is. This was changed 3 years ago, not even 60,000 Ks. I've done 50,000 Ks. Look at that oil. And before that it was also changed, so this oil needs to be changed regularly. Right, this is the filter housing. It is not an original part. I bought this on Amazon. I think it was called a Beck something, I'm not sure. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean it now, because I'm actually going to reinstall the same filter. It's only, I think, 3 years old, and more important is that the other parts are changed, which I'm still going to show you, but I'm just going to give this a wipe down. If you're wondering what these are magnets to collect any filings, metal shavings that may find its way into this filter body. And it's very important to thoroughly clean this. You don't want any oil residue anywhere here, especially on the seal. I'm going to try and reuse the seal, but ideally, if you could, get a new seal. But
but I'm going to reuse it for various reasons, and I'm just going to clean it. Okay, now it's time to release the adapter, which is on the side here. There it is. So what you'll need to do is open that flange using a screwdriver. Then you will release the electrical adapter, and then after that I'll show you what to do. So this has to be opened. There you go. And you have to get your hand in here, which is not very easy. So there's the adapter. Now you can just leave that. You can actually leave that there. And now we want to release this one. And what you need to do is you need to, there's a little press pin here, you got to pull that out. Now you can actually remove that adapter. You might need a bit of a pry, you might need to pry it out. So this thing has to be pulled out like that, and it's got two rubber seals on, so it might be pretty tight. I'm first going to use my hand, and then I'm going to use a screwdriver. Okay, so there you see it's coming out. It was not rough, it actually came out quite easily. What I did is I used the flat screwdriver, and I just kind of turned it there and then over there at the back, and then it came out. So that's what it looks like, and what's making it difficult to come out are these rubber seals. So you just got to get that out, and then we can now remove the mechatronics body. Okay, so this is what it looks like. This is what you're trying to extract. It's got a seal over there and two seals over here, so it's literally got three seals. Suggest you replace this. This one was already replaced, but unfortunately, in order to work on the mechatronics, I have to take this one out. Okay, now you want to release this emergency brake. You might hear it go "Klah!" Okay, I've already done that. And then I suggest you get some cable ties just to fasten this thing, for the reason that once this comes out, there's a bit of a spring loading action here, and you don't want to be a one-man show trying to get this thing back in. So just use this cable tie just to offer you a bit of support. There you go. Great. Now you can see that this little lever here will align once it's time to reinsert this. Okay, so now we carry on removing the mechatronics. It's 1, 2, 3, and this is a T40, and it's all the big screws that you are removing, the T40s. My advice is first loosen them by hand before you start using an impact tool. I sometimes find the impact tools can break the head off a nut, a screw, and that's why I don't use the impact to loosen. Here we go.
I will paste a link to the ZF mechatronics replacement guide from ZF. It'll be under the video on the YouTube page. And just a note that there is a procedure to put these screws back, so you'll check it in that PDF document which I put on the under the video, the link.
Yes. There we go. And this one. Yes. Okay, so just loosened, and now I can use the battery operator to speed the process up. And just let it come out gently and to the ground. There we go. Alright, now that's off. Now this is the adapter. You can remove it, inspect it. Oh, I can see this one is pretty warped. And you can take that one out. Come with your lint-free cloth. Wipe it down there. Now this thing can only go one way. There you go. And now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 little sleeves here that also need to be, they are totally collapsed. Well, I don't want to say collapsed, but they are recessed now. They're offering no sealing at all. And the best way to solve that is to remove them one by one. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently take a little long nose and just kind of pull it out. Oh, it's quite stuck. Do not scratch the chassis here. Do not mark this, do not scratch. Just wiggle it a bit. And then I've got this. It's looking like this. Just wiggle it. There we go. So there's a short one. So my advice is match the sizes up because they're all different sizes. There are two that are the same. See, those look the same. So now I'm going to insert this one in here. And wow, what a difference. Look at that. See, look at that height. You can do this as one person, as I'm going to demonstrate. Now, what I recommend you do is get some of those long screws handy. There they are. I've got them handy. And just put them down, but have them very close to where you need them. And now you're going to pick up the same mechatronics that just fell, well, that you let rest on the floor. And you just pick it up in the same way, and then you just bring it back up. Now, very important, make sure that the unit aligns.
When you're putting the mechatronics back, be very careful where the emergency brake, or there's a little lever there. It has to align. There's a little gap. So make sure that you've set that alignment up. Do not insert the mechatronics without checking there what I'm pointing to right now. That lever, there must be a lever between the little gap there, otherwise you will damage that little section of the mechatronics.
That must be in between the little pin, and that's why you don't tighten it until you see that that is in the right place, and that's the reason for this cable tie, which has now provided its function, and now we can tighten all these screws, the long ones. Right, now I'm just tightening them gently. I will torque them shortly. Okay, there is a sequence. It goes 1, there you go, then it's 2, which is this one over here, then it's 3, then it's 4, then it's 5 over here, then it's 6 at the back here, and then it's 7 over here. Okay, now we start again. So it's 1 in the middle, then it's 2 over here, then it's 3 back to here, then it's 4 over here, then it's 5 here, then it's 6 at the top here, and then it's 7 over here. Now I'm going to let that sit for a bit while I tighten these 3 over here. Alright, so it's 8 Newton meters. So alright, so here is the, I think it's called the mechatronics sleeve. You can see there's a lip on the top there, and this thing can only go in one way. So you've got to insert this into the body over there where that hole is. You've got to insert it there, push it in, and you can only fasten this thing if you're putting pressure on the sleeve. So this is quite a job. I can't hold the camera at the same time, but you've just got to push it in, and then after it's in, you can seat this guy, but you have to put pressure on the mechatronic sleeve at the same time. Then you can fasten that electrical connector back in. So it's kind of the reverse action, but the trick is to know that this thing will not go in unless it feels the pressure of the mechatronic sleeve. You're going to need to move the electrical cable out of the way. You can just push it out of the way, and now I'm going to just insert this one. Just make sure there's no dust or any grit that it picks up on the way while you're inserting it. Just make sure your hands are clean, and because of all the dirt that's there, I'm just giving it a wipe here so that when I do push this connector in, it doesn't get any dirt en route. So I'm just removing all the dirt. Okay, so I've got the sleeve in. Now the way to get the sleeve in is you put it by the hole and you turn it until it slots in. So it can only go in one way. So you don't have to worry, because you have to push it in pretty hard. So once you rotate it, then you'll see it shifts in. Then you can get quite vigorous with your various methods of getting the sleeve in. It's not that easy. Right, now you can only press this in while you've got pressure on that sleeve. Now the sleeve can shift in some. Okay, then the electrical connector you've put on, and then you just have to fasten it. There you go. Right, so we start here, and then we go opposite, and then we go opposite, and then we go. Right, so the tightening sequence is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You see how we're going? Okay, and this one is 8 Newton meters.
Okay, so what you've just seen is the filter plug not being able to have, the sump plug not being able to handle the 8 Newton meters. So what I did is I just cleaned it out with some thinners. Just make sure that nothing gets inside there, no lint or anything. And then what I did is I took some silicone gasket maker and I just put it around where the sump plug attaches into the plastic sump container. But no silicone must get into the sump itself.
Right, you torque it to about 10 Newton meters if you're using a plastic filter. If it's steel, you can do 11. That's it. That's it. Right, it's time to do the filling of the transmission tank. And now I just want to highlight to you to have all your items ready. As you can see, here are the new liquids. I'm just using the Liqui Moly Top Tech 1800. I'm not going to get into an argument about which is the best oil. I will just tell you that use premium oil. Don't use junk or low grade oil. Use the premium brands. All right, now my advice is have everything ready. See, here's the nut we're going to use, and there's the Allen key. So that is now ready. And then you will need a little container here for the oil which might seep out. I have a spirit level here. I'm going to measure, make sure the car is straight, and then I have a towel here, and you'll see what this towel is going to be used for shortly. Make sure your whole workspace is ready, because this is a fast procedure. You've got to be pretty fast to get this right. And I am going to use a thermocouple, and this I'm going to point onto the transmission body to give me the 40-degree measurement. Remember that you have to close the transmission before the temperature goes above 40 degrees. So this will be my measure. You can use INPA. I believe there is a slight difference in the outer measurement versus the inner, so give or take 1 degree or 1.5 degrees. I'm not too worried. That to that level of accuracy is not that important, as long as you stop filling by 40 degrees and you close the sump nut or the transmission nut as fast as possible. This is tricky. It is a high stress situation, because if you make a mistake, you'll have to literally wait hours so that the transmission can cool down and that you can refill the transmission. Now what you're seeing is the brake is depressed. I have that automatically depressed so that it is safe in this working environment. So the brakes are on. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm doing a few practice runs. I'm practicing putting in this nut, for the reason that when you are at the time of 40 degrees, you're going to be a little bit challenged because this thing's going to be flipping hot. You are under a car that is on, which is a little bit discerning. So I'm just practicing the process of getting this nut in. Now I have done this a few times before, but even so, this is a little bit annoying. Okay, now this guy here gets very hot. Okay, we want to make sure the car is level, and we want to measure that it's level in this direction, which it is. Which is fine.
Right now, so you begin to fill up the car. Remember, the car is still off, and I'm now just going to fill it up to the point where it starts to drip out of the sump. Then just remember that this is a little bit tricky getting the nozzle in there. I did use a pump at one stage, but I found that putting the pump onto each bottle was too time consuming, and maybe I had the wrong pump. But also remember that at home, when you're doing this in your yard, having the car not very high makes this very challenging, whether you use a pump or not. So I just found that the times that I've done it, I just reverted to doing it with the bottles. It's a very fast process, so I just use the bottles themselves, and then any extra liquid that falls into the little plastic bucket there, then I can just reuse if need be.
Okay, I've wrapped here with wet towels. Now ideally you could use a pump. I've used a pump, found it actually more difficult in this method. So in this method it's quite challenging, but I'm just showing you that you can do this without the pump, and I have done this without the pump several times. Right, make sure your nut is ready. As I said, you could have a few practice runs. Be very calm when you're putting this nut in. It doesn't want to go in easily. You just got to be calm, have a few practice. See, now it's not going in. Not easy to get it in. You just got to relax. There we go, it's going in. Right, taking an initial measurement. I see it's 11 degrees. I'm having that handy. Okay, so I've filled it up while it's cold, and now I'm putting the drain plug in. Just turning it a little bit, just so that when I start it, oil doesn't blast out of here. So I've just got it in a little bit there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and start the car, and then I'm going to come here and I'm going to start filling it up. Then I'm going to measure until it's at 35 degrees. Then I'm going to go into the car and toggle it through the gears, forward, reverse, and maybe through the manual mode. Then I'm going to come here and, as fast as possible, fill up, top up here until I get a stream here. I'm going to measure the temperature here up to about 42 degrees, give or take, because the inner is a bit warmer than the outer. And then I'm going to close the drain plug, and the job is done for this part. Right, now it's time to start the car. Drain plug. Fill up. Right, next one. Take a measurement. Wheel about. It's still cold. 28, it's getting there. Right, it's full. Full. Come boy, full. Right. Here we go. Measurement. It's 30. Right. Time to go and change the gears. Aircon on. Right. Reverse. Drive. Neutral. Reverse. Aircon on. Again, neutral, drive, manual. Let's toggle through the gears. Neutral, reverse. Right, now it's time to top up the oil. That is it. Come on, boy. Come on. Pump it. Come. That's it. Right, next one. Take a measurement. We're at 6 degrees. Right. Come, bro. Come. You can feel the heat. Right, let's do another one. Let's do another one. Let's get it in there. There we go. There comes the steady stream. Right, there she comes. Now we need the nut. Put the nut on, just relax. Okay, at 44, it's getting a bit hot here. Okay, gonna have to clean this nut a bit. $42. Okay, nut is in. Right, now we need the Allen key. Okay, it's done. Right, now I can strip the car.
Right, so you effectively are done now. You can close it up. And what I recommend is to either you decide if you're going to do the adaptation reset. If you are going to do the adaptation reset, we're welcome to watch my other video. It is quite involved. Maybe take your car for a drive, and if your gear changing is fine, maybe you could give it a miss. I have a video on the adaptation reset. It's quite involved. It takes about half an hour. You're going to drive about 60 Ks or so. It depends how you go about it, but it is quite involved. Now, what I recommend is to drive your car for a few days and then open up the little dust cover again, that heat cover, and then just check if there are any leaks. If there are no leaks, then you're good to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just show you after a few days, and I've done a few hundred Ks, and just to show you the leaks, and also just to talk about taking the temperature with the infrared thermocouple.
Okay, so the car has been driven for a while. I've done about 300 Ks, and I'm just opened it up again just to look for leaks. Now I know I have an oil leak, an engine oil leak, which I will attend to, as you can see, but by the transmission there should be no oil on the seal at all. And you can see around the sump filter housing here, you can see there is literally no leak. Now I am expecting, okay, this residue here is still from when we filled the sump. As you can see, that's where the filler is, and there's a little bit of residue oil here still from when we filled it, so that's nothing to be worried about. Just oil that dripped over from here, so there's no problem there. But in terms of the drain sump, I had to seal it with silicone. You can see that it is totally dry, so no problems there. And here at the back, also dry. Right, to reset the adaptations and also to just get the temperature of the transmission, you'll need to use INPA. I've loaded it up here. This happens to be a Windows 10 machine. It is possible to run INPA on Windows 10. And you'll need this little USB CAN interface. This is what it looks like. And it's got to plug into the diagnostics here at the bottom. And when you plug it in, you'll see a little red LED. I don't know if you can see that. And you plug this into your computer. Now, and many people ask me, how did I load the EDIA bus? The EDIA bus loads by itself. So there's the EDIA bus, and you can see the battery's on, ignition is on. And I'll go to E65 because that is the type of car that I'm using now. Just a couple of errors there. Now we'll go to status, and then we go to analog, and there is the gearbox temperature. It says 84, and I'm adjusting the accelerator pedal, as you can see. So it says there 84 degrees. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and measure that with the thermocouple, just to compare the inner versus outer temperature, just to answer the question of whether there is a difference on the outer temperature versus the inner temperature, and also find out where it's picking up that 84 degrees. Now, in terms of the temperature measurement, I use the thermocouple, but the thermocouple is slightly different from the temperature which is inside. Now I have the INPA measuring the temperature, and I just want to compare it here. When I measure the actual filter housing, I can see it's a 76 degrees, and over here it's 79 degrees. So there is a non-uniformity in the temperature between here and here. So this temperature measurement is a bit tricky, and if I measure the actual chassis here, I'm getting 86 degrees. So that's kind of just measuring just above where the filter sits. So that's at about 86 degrees, just over there. You can see where it's facing. And if I measure the body, the transmission body, it's saying 81, 82 degrees. So that's the body. If I measure here, just where the chassis is of the transmission, it's giving me 82 degrees. Okay, so there I'm getting 80, call it 80, it does fluctuate, and that's the problem, as you can see. And I think it's because the what do you call this, the exhaust is too close, and the exhaust is sitting at 195. So when you're taking the temperature, like that is 107 degrees at this point of the transmission, while this point is 72, 78, 81. Okay, so it's at 81, and while this point over here is sitting at 91. So this is quite challenging if you are going to measure the temperature from outside without INPA. My advice is to measure the temperature. Just about there. So if you can see where it's pointing there, because that's the closest place to getting the accurate temperature. Just over there. And if you want to see where that is, there's kind of like a little gap there, and that's the best place.